have access to your hand and take mine.
So just stay like that. Like marketing training or like how to use these testing shit.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. The person experiencing this now. Yeah.
Noon, everyone. But welcome. So you guys have a meeting tomorrow?
Yeah.
Women's and Gender Education Center. My name is Jessie Willis, and I'm a faculty member with the GWSS Gender, Women's, and Sexuality Studies program here at EWU. It is my great pleasure to have you join us for the second Activist in Residence workshop, led today by local activist and artist Jacob Johns. Their program is made possible by university donors who supported the Activist in Residence endowment. And the EWU Foundation Fund still needs contributions for us to continue this valuable and timely work. So just letting you know that. But I want to begin our conversation today by recognizing that the space we are occupying is built on the unceded homelands of the Spokane people. The traditional homelands of the Colville and Coeur d'Alene people are also nearby. I encourage all of us to critically consider the impact of colonialism in our lives, on our campus, and in our local communities, and to consider our own intentions and efforts to disrupt and dismantle the systems behind those impacts. At GWSS, we appreciate all those who support issues of equity, diversity, and justice across our campus and in our region, including the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Yay.
Yes.
Shout out the Pride Center.
Woo.
The Multicultural Center.
Woo.
And all of our invaluable academic diversity programs. American Indian Studies, Africana Studies, Chicanic Studies. These programs are at the heart of Eastern Washington University and core to doing work that must be done in this moment and every moment. At GWSS, we have a team of dedicated staff and faculty. So I want to recognize Dr. Mimi Marinucci, Dr. Kevin Decker,
Yeah, Decker.
as our interim director, the Wage Center Administrative Assistant Lily.
Yeah, Lily.
Yes. And our work study office folks, Eva Kirkland and Isis Bauer. We're deeply appreciative.
Yes.
Deeply appreciative of all our affiliated faculty who come from a multitude of disciplines across campus. We could not do this work without you, and we do it better because we do it together. So thank you. I was going to give a special shout out, and I'm going to anyway, to Josh Hobson, who is from the Department of Fine Arts and Fine and Performing Arts. And they have an artist talk coming up, When the River Becomes a Cloud, which is going on February 4th. There's an artist talk. So, and it looks, maybe some of the students are here from the art and activism class. Welcome, so glad you're here. Okay, so it is my great pleasure to have you join us today for this workshop by Jacob Johns. I am really just honored to have bumped into Jacob Johns in my living here in Spokane. And I get to daily appreciate much of his amazing artistry and work, which he also has brought, I don't know what we call these. Prints, thank you. Prints that you should check out today. His work is also being shown over at the library. Here, I get one off script. Well, it's at the JFK Library in the Seacrest Gallery, and it's there until February 19th. So I encourage you to check it out. Jacob is an independent climate activist. His work as an organizer for the community-supported Backbone campaign uses creative strategies and artful activism to manifest a world where life, community, nature, and our obligations to future generations are honored as sacred. It's sacred to have this and share this time together. And please put on your calendar, Jacob will be here with us 2 more times after today for workshops on February 5th and February 19th. Thank you for being part of these conversations, for your presence, for your voice, and for the work that must be done at this moment and in all moments moving forward. It's great to have you here today, and I'm so excited and honored to have David here to guide us through today's workshop. Jacob Jones.
Jacob Johns. My name is Jacob Johns. I use all human pronouns. I'm based here in Spokane, Washington. I'm a community support organizer, which means that I am like a solo nonprofit group that does intersectional organizing. I've been a community support organizer for the past 8 years. Well, now, 8 years now. And it started off doing supply runs to Standing Rock, doing a lot of frontline support for the watershed there, which fully evolved into doing international climate policy work underneath the umbrella of the UNFCCC. I've had a hard week. It's like in life, like reality. And I took the advice of some people and got rid of my social media, which really helps. Like my Facebook is just, I don't know if you guys are on it. If you are, it's like full of boomerish propaganda that was making me fearful and afraid of life. And so I wanted to start today off just to like be collective and find a nice space for us to be in. And there's a practice that we do. And breathe in the light of the dawning day. So if you imagine sitting on a dark earth facing the sun as the sun rises, that the sun will rise, and as the sun touches the top of your head and touches your body, you imagine breathing down the light into your body. And as you exhale, you exchange the darkness and the stress and the worry and all of the hatred that is trapped inside of us. And we exchange this. So I'd like to invite you all to just get comfortable. If your chair is sweet, it's like nothing, it's okay. Just get comfortable and close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Take a deep breath in. Breathe out. Take another deep breath in and just breathe out. I would imagine that you're sitting on the earth and that you are facing the east and that the sun is rising. As you take deep breaths of the sunlight, it touches the top of your head. And as you breathe, taking deep inhales, you pull that light from creation further and further down from the top of your head, down into your eyes, filling up your head with each breath with light. And you exchange it with the darkness that is trapped inside of your body. You blow out stress, you blow out worry, blow out fear. Blow it out and imagine it being like smoke coming out of your body. And as you inhale, you pull down the divine light of creation, signaling a new day, a new chance. And that light pulls you farther and further down into your shoulders, down into your chest. And you exchange all the darkness that is trapped and contained inside of your body, and you blow it out. You exchange it with divine light. And I want you to feel this light being pulled further and further down into your torso, down into your hips, down into your thighs, pulling up all of the stress and all of the worry that is trapped inside of your body and blowing it out. Imagine breathing this light in further and further down through your calves, finally at your toes, until you have just one beaming ball of consciousness. Now imagine that your body dissolves and all that is left is one sphere of consciousness. one ball of light. And where the top of your head used to be becomes the North Pole. And where the base of your spine used to be becomes the South Pole. And now when you breathe in light from the North Pole and pull it down slowly and slowly down the Northern Hemisphere towards the equator, finally rounding out to the Southern Hemisphere, to the South Pole. And as you imagine breathing in light, imagine it like a new day coming across the planet, coming across your own body. And you pull the light down from the north, all the way down to the equator, all the way down to the South Pole. I want you to feel this light. The divine light that you are absorbing from an outside source, the divine light that you are breathing in from the sun is actually contained inside of you. The heat and the warmth and the radiance that you were experiencing from an outside source is contained in the core of your being. I want you to feel this weight of brightness, this weight of truth, this weight of creation inside the core of your being, and feel it opening. Feel it opening up your heart, and feeling it opening up the center of the planet simultaneously. And I want you to switch from absorbing outside energy to owning and recognizing your own truth and own power. That you have the light, the divine light of creation inside of you. And that you must emanate that light. And as you feel this light broadcasting from the center of your heart, feel it broadcasting from the center of this planet. And as you radiate this light, the earth itself radiates this light. Because you are the earth. And I'd like to invite you all to imagine yourself as the earth, broadcasting light.
Oh, there, I, oh, yes, oh, yes,
A lot of fear in the world right now. And it's important for us to really understand the power that we have within ourselves. That we cannot accept outside forces, we cannot accept outside energy, that we need to recognize the own power that we have inside of our bodies. And then more importantly, that collectively that we are the ones who co-create the future together. And that we must unify in prayer and in heart and in future solidarity. And it's important for us to really reframe, especially when we are bombarded by bullshit nonstop. It's nonstop. It's scary. But we have each other. And, you know, at the state of the world, it is a veil being lifted from our eyes, because the sad fact is that this country itself, even though we want to celebrate that there's free speech and we have freedom, was based on genocide and slavery. And it is no shock and no surprise to me that we have elected a racist white supremacist into office. And we come together and we understand that we have to do something for friends. We have to do all these things. And the societal collapses are a direct representation of the environmental collapses that are happening. And the best way for us to really focus on changing and fixing the societal problems that we have globally is to focus on saving and fixing the environment. And so by doing so, I didn't want to repeat a whole lot of videos that I did before, so I've got a wide variety of stuff for these talks. And so I wanted to talk a little bit of base on what it is that I was doing as a community support organizer. So I was doing all the supply runs, which brought me up to doing a bunch of different encampments. I was doing line 3 stuff. I was doing stuff down in Mountain Valley Pipeline. I was doing stuff down in Louisiana. I was doing a lot of stuff, right? And then eventually it got me into the space where I was able to get into the U.S. Climate Action Network. Well, the U.S. Climate Action Network is a node of the International Climate Action Network, which is an international network that is basically about getting the governments to secede to the demands of the climate crisis. And this is really about trying to find different nodes to work internationally to basically force governments to, first off, do what they said they're going to do, and then do more on top of that, right? This is the whole idea of it. They had access to blue badges, which gives you United Nations clearance to the Conference of the Parties, which is the negotiating table for the climate accords underneath the framework of the United Nations. So the UNFCCC is the United Nations framework for the Convention on Climate Change, which is basically the negotiating tables for the climate accords. Paris Accord came out of the COP, Kyoto Accords came out of the COP. All these different things came out of the Conference of the Parties. All these amazing things that were, ideally created to help us. That hasn't happened. Back in 1992, they had the first World Peace Summit, which was an environmental summit that was held in Rio de Janeiro. That was 30 years ago. And a lot of the people that I've come across with, especially older people, are like, there's no point. I've been doing this for 20 years and there's no point. We're still at the COP, we're still negotiating bullshit. We're still doing all these things. And I don't want to participate. And as a younger person, right? Like, I'm like, all right, so we're self-fucked. That's what we're going to do. It's just give up, call it a day, and sell it off to Elon Musk. Is that what we're doing? I don't really understand it. It didn't make any sense to me. And so I started to do more and more international networking. I went to about 4 different COPs, and I was doing all this stuff. And even though there's not a whole lot being done on the executive level, the high level negotiations that we can celebrate as a civil society, there is a lot of amazing things that are happening in civil society spaces. You are not alone. You are not isolated in a nation state and only an isolated portion of the population. You are a beacon of hope for humanity. And there are other beacons of hope for humanity that come together to meet each other, to co-create a network. And that's the beauty of the Conference of the Parties. And in that space, this space where we are finding these beautiful flowers of human beings, we're coming together, trying to celebrate and save the world for the children. That's where the beauty lies. That's where we find international solidarity. That's how we find purpose in what we're doing, despite the jaded bullshit that we are bombarded with. And in so doing, I met a person, a wonderful human rights lawyer based out of South Africa, who had just won a major international case against Shell for based off of the Free and Informed Prior Consent, which was part of the United Nations Indigenous Declaration of Human Rights, a couple of years ago. And based off of that, he won this huge case that set an international precedent to basically fight fossil fuel companies that are doing evil shit around the country, around the planet. And I interviewed him. He was saying all these amazing things, and then I forgot to turn on the microphone. I'm not a camera person. I have to do this stuff because we have to get the messages out or whatever. So he was saying all these things. Beautiful man. Whatever he said, it's lost into the ethos. And then I was doing I had this meditation practice. I wake up in the morning, and it's where every time I wake up, and it's usually around 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up and I just meditate for an hour just so I can get my head together, because otherwise I'm like a toddler running around, running to teeth. It was, it's a thing. So I was doing the Kyotha, the spiritual practice that we do in the beginning of this, and where you envision yourself as Earth broadcasting energy, right? You want to connect to the core of the planet and really broadcast this thing, this change. And we all feel this shift coming, this movement, and all of those things. And so, as visualizing myself as the Earth, broadcasting energy, I felt like as if there was a place around my weight, my belt. I don't know. I'm a big sphere, right? I'm just a giant planet.
Yeah.
In this giant planet, there was key places that I needed to go to, and I needed to find a group of like-minded people to join me on this path as we went to key places to say to pray for humanity at these key places to connect this grid, right? And what the fuck is that? I'm 3 o'clock in the morning. What? All right. So I'm like, all right. I shake it off. I put on some pants, right? Fine. Whatever. I'm doing it. And then 4 hours later, I get an email from the guy who turn on the microphone. He said, "Hey, we are part of this collective that travels the world to sacred sites, and we'd like you to join." I said, "Okay. I think you guys are fucking aliens. Like, that's for real." First off, how are you guys paying for all this or whatever? And they're like, "We're doing the secret sites tour. We're going to go to Great Pyramids in Giza. Then we're going to go to Shasta. Then we're going to go to Mauna Kea." I know, but all right, cool. They wanted me to go on this trip with them, and I thought for sure they were aliens or they're going to kill me. I don't know, we know what's going on. So I drove from Spokane down to Mount Shasta and met with them, and they were like these amazing people. And like we were walking up the mountain, and like some of them had never seen snow before. They're walking barefoot. They're doing all this stuff. All right, cool. And so from there, we went to the Azores on Portugal. It was off the island of Portugal. It's in the middle of the Atlantic. Amazing, amazing place. And we started doing ceremony with a bunch of people. And this is based off of this concept that there are ley lines around the planet. And those intersection ley line points, there are like massive things. Stonehenge is on there. Great Pyramid of Giza is up here, right? So you can see here is Mount Kailash. Or sorry, Mount Shasta, the Azores. From there, we went to Great Pyramid of Giza. From Giza, we went to Greenland to do ceremony for the North Pole. So North Pole, we went to Zian to do ceremony for here. Then we went to Calabash, which is here. And from there, we went to Uluru. From Uluru, we went down to New Zealand, which is here to do ceremony for the South Pole. And then came home. Then we went to New Mexico after I got done, and I ended up getting shot, which really sucked. But the sacred sites journey really like prepped me for it, right? You had this vision of having to travel the world, and here I was doing it. And it was like the last trip that we did was like 45 days. It was like 27 flights in 45 days. It was just like, ugh. And we were paid for it by a film crew that followed us to all these different places. But after we did all this stuff, right, it felt like we needed to do more. And the collective that had invited me into this, we had gone to South Africa. We did ceremony down there for the Lions Gate, which is down. See it here, but that's all Yolanga, which is up there. But we went around doing all this stuff, and these amazing people were like just beaming with like positivity. We just traveled around the world and done ceremony for all these different traditions at all these key places in order to broadcast energy that would create a new vibration for the rest of the world. Sounds good, right? But like in practicality, what do we do with that? And so I asked for portions of the collective and people that I had met on this journey, sacred sites journey, and different places that we had gone. Egypt and South Africa is where we had gathered before, and I asked these key place people to join me on basically an application that we have to do more than just pray. Like thoughts and prayers are great, but we need to get out there and do action. Like direct action is what gets the goods. This is how we make an effect change. And so I asked them, can we come together and basically read a document that distills our global perspective of Indigenous wisdom and to respond to that consensus to the negotiating tracks as a way for heads of state to basically follow these guidelines in order to pull us out of the climate catastrophe as we know it. They say, yeah, a couple of them. Like, it was a hard sell at first. It was a really hard sell. I had to come up with the money and do all this stuff. And I had gone to cops before, right? Like it's just me. It's the one person. I was able to raise $5,000 for one person to do the work. That's. It seems like a big lift, but it's actually not that big of a lift. What I was trying to do was to bring 15 people to the most expensive city in the world. Dubai, which was where COP28 was held, is the most expensive city in the world, like hands down. Like there's such a major gap in wealth. It's ridiculous. None of the Emiratis actually work. Everybody that they work are I mean, it's a crazy thing, right? COP28. And I had to bring 15 people there. So I went down to New Mexico. I tried to smooth with these people, and I got shot. Like I went to this gathering. We had this prayer gathering with local Indigenous people, and there were some MAGA people that showed up with guns. And we had prayed all night to basically prevent this thing from happening, trying to send prayers out to the universe, that they wouldn't re-erect a statue. It was basically like putting up a statue of Hitler and a homeland of these indigenous people who were cousins to me. And some of the people were pro-conquistador. Shocking as that may seem. And one of them had a gun. And the police, he was being really rowdy in the crowd. And there was mainly a bunch of women and children there and two spirits who were holding ceremony and vigil all night, which is why they asked me to come. And so I did go. And in the morning time, the prayers were answered. The commissioner did not put the statue back up, but somebody tried to rush into the center, and one of them pulled out a gun and shot me in the chest. And so I don't know if you ever been shot in the chest, but that shit sucks. Like, and it wasn't just like one bullet; it was like a hollow point bullet. So when the hollow point bullet goes in, it just goes in, and just wow, your insides, right? So I don't want to get too graphic in it, but I had a lot of serious problems, and I died. And on this other side, I had beyond life and death, I had blacked out when my lungs had collapsed from the bullet. I just couldn't breathe, and then I woke up and came to in the helicopter flying from Espanola to Albuquerque. And in this moment of coming back to consciousness, I lost my life. I died. Everything froze, and I had to go before this council of spirits and examine my life, everything that I had done, and all these bad things that I did, but all good things too, right? And I was able to convince them to let me come back in this body. And in so doing that, they basically gave me a new contract of things that I had to complete in order to escape those cycles of reincarnation that we're doomed to in life, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. One of them was to continue to do this work. So as soon as I got out of I came to, I'm in the hospital, it sucked, right? I had to learn how to walk and go to the bathroom. It was a horrible experience. The whole time I still had to do this work. I still had 15 people that were coming to Dubai. I had 2 tubes in my pancreas and one in my liver, and I had to come down and stitch it. And I was pretty messed up. And I thought, well, I got to get these people there. So I started doing Zoom calls and fundraising things in my nose. I'm like, yeah, I just got a shot. We still need money to go to Dubai. and everybody's like, tell me, like we're, especially all the jaded activists, tell me, like, there's no point. Like we're screwed. Yeah, there's nothing. What's the point? I've been doing this for X amount of years, and there's no point. Well, I had just died, and the spirits on the other side told me, hey, humanity still has a chance. Fuck these old people, we still got a chance to win. And I said, all right, well, so I had gotten that I was really hard. It was really hard for me. And they had sent a lot of medicine people, the Indian collective, who are our friends, were sending some folks to come. One of the local medicine people had came to the hospital and was telling me about what my body was feeling, and that in my mind, I had to shift what the pain was and the turmoil and all of this basically negative that I was experiencing, and shifted in my mind to being a positive. That yes, the pain is hurtful and it's painful and all of these things, but your body is healing and you're coming back. And this pain is that growth. This pain is that regrowth. This pain is the rejuvenation of something that we thought was beyond life. That we had pumped this cliff, we had jumped over the cliff. And guess what? We were still able to come back. And he told me that I had to stop taking all the pain meds. And I was like on morphine, Oxycontin. I mean, I was on a lot of, I had staples up and down my abdomen and coming, I mean, it was really bad. And he told me I had to stop taking the pain meds. And so I slowly started weaning myself off of the pain meds. And he told me that if I could stop seeing the pain as being a negative, but seeing it as a positive, that in my mind, that I could become the warrior that the world needs. And I'm like, all right. So I did. And then 2 weeks after I had gotten out of the hospital, I jumped on a plane and went to Dubai. And I had, I had missing a spleen. I had a bunch of stuff. I had abscesses on my surgical line that I had to change 3 times a day. I mean, it was really bad, but I had to continue to do the work. And we were able to do the work. It was able to be done and completed. And one of the things I think is really powerful is that it all started from just doing these small prayers with a group of people, but really, really helped to change not only my life, but the frequency, I think, from the whole planet. And this is the whole point of us coming together and trying to find a different, sorry, wrong way. So, no. Oh, I apologize. I'm trying to use 2 screens at once and backwards. Forgive my neurodivergence. And so in doing so, I messed up the thing, but I wanted to show this. We ended up bringing water from my village. My village is in northern Arizona. It's been there for 2,000 years. It's my homeland. And we have a spring there. The village is called Monkati. It means mountain spring. And in that water, sacred water, special water that I had brought specifically for them. And we kill the lights. Sorry, 1 second. I'm sorry, excuse me. I have the sound coming through my laptop. Sorry. Usually not this technical.
There's moment for people to get up and get fat. Feed your body as you nourish your.
Yeah. Things on my. There should be. It should be here. We good? Is there anything an audio jack as well?
Yeah.
Sorry. You don't like write agendas and like all this stuff, but I wanted to so that I could touch on these key things here and not forget cool stuff. Okay, great. Thank you. I switched out to make sure that the output was.
Hey, there it is.
The river right now is running more than 1 million liters per second. And there are more than 10,000 of them from the melting ice. So when we put this one in, it will become part of this incredible ocean. And then you can find water from the melting ice. It's water. It's melting from 1 million-year-old ice. It's the best water that I've ever tasted in my life. And immediately taste it. Feel it entering my body. It's amazing. Amazing out here. There's nothing like it.
One of the things that's important is for us to like really find global prayer. And one of the things that I like to do is really bring water from my village to these different places and switch them out. And so I have different water from different places. I switched it out and I brought back and I scoop it back up and then go out again and scoop back out and pour again. But this idea of being able to connect the waters globally in prayers is something that I think is really, really beautiful. I switched up the video things on accident, so I was supposed to go a little bit earlier. But I wanted to show off this as well, as we have gone to Dubai, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the collective, the Earth Rest collective that we had came out of. This is basically where we came out of. I messed up on the. Oh, I should have showed this video before. Anyways, let me just shut up and show. The Enterprise Collective is a beautiful thing. I do the media for the collective. Also, we have members of our collective who are in all the places around the planet, and that's where we had gotten our delegates. Our delegates are actively involved with the Enterprise Collective. We're one and the same, which is why I highlighted a lot of the stuff with the Earthfire. I want to move this over here. I got a little bit of a thing. So basically, talking about the collective is really the basis of it. You know, there is a time of turning, a time that has been prophesized by a lot of traditions. Can you turn the slide on just real quick? Sorry. And this time of turning is something that my own tradition speaks of. This time where humanity was faced with the choice of either being in harmony with nature, living at one with nature, learning to live in harmony with the environment, and those who wanted to destroy and exploit and extract for their own personal things and live against nature and separate from it. And we're starting to see that collapse of this system that is relying on technology start to fail. The systems of capitalism and colonization are starting to fall around all around us. And you know, as we start to look at how we can share our traditional wisdom and how we can really share teachings with other people to help them understand that we are connected, that we are the earth, that more importantly, we are humanity, we're sisters, and we are brothers, and we are together. It's really, really hard. And I think one of the most beautiful things about trying to do more than just pray is about what action means to individuals. It might mean something different to you. It might mean something different to everyone, but we have to build consensus on what that looks like. And what do we do with that? Being oppositional to oppressive systems does nothing to stop that system from oppressing. What we have to do is co-create something better together. I had shared a little bit of, this is not me, I promise you, that the thing over here. The idea of us coming together and praying and co-create our ideas really comes into full circle when we have these groups that come together and pray, right? Like that's a big thing. I'm an active Unitarian Universalist, right? I'm a Universalist, I believe, and all religions are valid, right, without the dogma. But this idea is really this conceptual thing. Everybody's been brought up with this idea that the world needs to come together, and once the world hold hands, we'll all be together. You know, we're all brought up with this idea, this conceptual thing that's all that needs to happen, right? Well, it's not actually taking place, and this itself, I think, is an embodiment of that. This is us coming together coming together in siblinghood, which is really, really important. In the global south, there's a prophecy called the eagle and the condor, which is very prevalent in the South American communities. And in this prophecy, the prophecy of the eagle and condor, the south of the eagle represents the North American people, and the condor represents represents the South American people. And when the eagle and the condor fly together, the humanity and the world will find balance. And so one of the things that we've really tried to do is stand in solidarity with our sisters and brothers in the global South who don't have a voice at any of the negotiating tables. We as American citizens have the right to be able to speak up against our government. Our government, right? And this idea of us being able to free speech and speak truth to power isn't afforded to a lot of people, especially in international spaces. And if we want to be in solidarity with our sisters and brothers who are already suffering at the hands of the collapse of their ecosystem, then we need to be the voice for them and stand in solidarity. And we know that the time for small quantum leaps working domestically has passed us, that the science is telling us that we have passed the 1.5 degree pre-industrial mark that we were trying to stay below. We hit it last summer. And that the concept that one country will be able to save the world by making domestic policy changes is a false statement. But what we really need is a global consensus, and we need global governments to make the same choices, the same policy adaptations simultaneously. And this idea of doing this quantum leap is exactly what we need. This idea that we're going to be able to shift the hearts and minds of world leaders simultaneously so that we're going to step back from that cliff, come back into this life, and celebrate a healthy, just, livable future. So I had pulled up a video that I've been working on, specifically show here that translated Spanish, but when I shared it, it didn't do it. So you're all going to watch some video where the very beginning.
Who come together to advance contemporary climate policy. We are a Wisdom Keepers delegation. We are an international collective of Indigenous wisdom keepers and activists from around the world who come together to advance contemporary climate policy that we co-create by distilling our global Indigenous wisdom.
The Wisdom Keepers delegation is a transcultural, transnational, transdisciplinary delegation of wisdom keepers holding lineages of deep knowledge with the original instructions that I believe have the potential, if applied correctly, to provide solutions to create a world that is livable in for the future.
Ko hene birongi, ko whaia aho. Ko Ngāti Kawanunu o Aotearoa, New Zealand. The world is watching us. And we, as Indigenous peoples, are watching you. We are not here to fill the halls like a walking circus for your Instagram posts. We are here with deep knowledge, wisdom, and answers for this climate solution. We are here to build the bridge into the new world. We are here to extend the hands of unity and kotahitanga to protect our foreshores, to protect our oceans, to safeguard our forests, and to build a future for our generations to come. 7 generations it has been since colonization. And we are here to say that we are rising to protect the 7 that are on their way. Ngā mihi aroha.
The NCQG has this truth that we carry, that true solutions, honoring.
Sorry, this is a work in progress. I wanted to highlight specifically our Global South folks who I painstakingly translated and time coded and translated into captions that is somewhere in here, I promise you. Yeah, here we go. All right, great. All right.
Plantation that has led us here to this ending right now. And what we see.
Opciones y más de 2,500.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
No, you're all good.
This is I'm gonna have to take this out. I had it lined up, and I did download it, but it didn't have the timestamps on it with the subtitles, which sucks. Because what she said is like really impressive, and it's in Spanish. And it's gone now. All right, well, y'all are just gonna see it without the translation. I'm sorry. Here she goes.
De los pueblos. Uno de los propósitos de dar incidencia, de que se represente a los pueblos y nacionalidades. He caminado desde el 11 hasta el 22, que es el día de hoy, tratando de que se concientizar y sensibilizar a la humanidad de la protección de los recursos naturales. Y que uno de los sueños, que es vivir en paz, con tranquilidad, se está convirtiendo en créditos, en préstamos para las megas empresas, en donde los pueblos originarios como los pueblos y nacionalidades somos dueños y protectores de donde vivimos, de nuestros territorios, nuestra selva y nuestros ríos. Y solo estamos viendo que estas están dando créditos a las megas empresas extractivas que están en la destrucción y no respetan los derechos colectivos de las nacionalidades indígenas. Nosotros como indígenas no vamos a territorios mestizos a pedir créditos o a
She's
pedir...
basically saying that she's representing the Ecuadorian Amazon. She's representing 11 nationalities, 23 organizations, and over 2,500 communities. It took her a long time to get to COP, and the decisions being made in the negotiations don't reflect Indigenous wisdom, and that she's hopeful that there will be change. She's hopeful that there will be clear, concrete responses for the well-being of Indigenous nations and people, and that her purpose is to make an impact and ensure that global Indigenous people and nationalities are represented at the COP. She says that we are the original peoples, the original nationalities, and we are the owners and protectors of the places that we live, in our territories, in our jungles, and our rivers. And when we see that they're giving away carbon credits to these mega corporations that extract resources and destroy our environment, they don't respect the collective rights of Indigenous people, not in their territories or globally. And that we as Indigenous people didn't go to the colonizers' territory and demand that they give us carbon credits or give us their land because they are the owner. But in our territories, they can make decisions. We are the original peoples, and we've lived there for a long time. We have lived for thousands of years in our territories. And now people are arriving who came to exterminate us, and they are coming with the extractive corporations. Now in the decision-making processes, they are dealing with the governments and not the Indigenous peoples and nationalities. We as Indigenous peoples and nationalities should be the first to hear clearly what is being discussed in these negotiations, because we are the owners and the inhabitants and the protectors of our territories, forests, and waters. Once again, I have to return to my country, return to my peoples and nationalities with this news that there is no feasible answer and there is no viable result for us. We've had hope, and we still have hope as decisions are made in negotiations underneath the theme of climate protection. And we will continue to fight for the preservation of our natural world and our natural resources. And we should look ahead and not for our own benefit, but we should see the governments will fill their pockets with money and not give any credit to the Indigenous peoples that they have killed and extracted and exploited for centuries.
Finding solutions toward the climate crisis of which we are all.
I had that all. I spent like 3 hours this morning, so
Damn.
I promise you what it's doing. I have the notes. Sorry, I have notes that I have speakers notes that have links to all of the videos, and I can share those so that you guys can all watch them in their entirety when it's time. What's my laptop? Apologies for that. I'm usually not so technically in. I know.
It's kind of cool your voice while you're speaking. That actually is kind of a cool way to see it.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot more footage. We had for this year's COP, we had over 5 terabytes worth of footage, which is a crazy amount of footage that we gathered. We had 18 people that came through. Dubai was hard. Dubai was really difficult because of the injuries that I was trying to work through, and also like managing a team of people is a pain in the ass. Trying to get that many people to one part of the world is just such a nightmare. And while we were supposed to be tightening up our policy, I was recuperating in the hospital, which made our policy platform seem very broad and not very teethy. So this year, we were able to really spend a lot more time figuring out how to respond to the negotiating track. How do we respond specifically within the verbiage of the negotiations? And how do we do that in a response that is in unison with our delegation, but responds in alignment with all the constituencies that all of us are a part of? So in order to do that, we had to do reconnaissance at the subsidiary body meetings, which take place in Bonn, Germany, every year before the COP. They try to basically negotiate the things. It's a pre-negotiation, and anything that doesn't get worked out with the pre-negotiation goes to the full COP, as the COP parties. Those are the hardline things. And so in doing so, we were able to tighten up our thing. We really, our platform was about responding to the negotiating tracks. Last year was the conference, the climate finance COP. We had, the science has shown us that we need $1 trillion each year for us to combat climate change. $1 trillion, right, with a T. And that's $5 trillion for the next 5 years. Every 5 years, the United Nations gives a nationally determined, so it's a new quantified collective goal, which basically is it's NCQG, which is basically like over the next 5 years, how much money are you going to spend on climate finance? And they ask each country. Each country came together and collectively the world put forth like 300 billion with a D, which fails us on so many levels. And it's a slap in the face. And you know, we like to say that, well, I don't like to say it, but people like to say we're fun, right? But I like to say if we weren't in the room, we'd be a lot more fun. And that's 100% true. And so we have to be able to respond to these things, right? We have to be able to respond to them in the way that they have presented to us as being the only option for engagement. And that sucks. You know, being able to use indigenous wisdom and ancient wisdom, I should say, traditional ecological knowledge as being the model for sustainability is counteractive to the way the negotiations are working, right? We are looking at the negotiations are basically about stopping the rise of the climate, right? And in so doing that, we have to stop pollution. Well, instead of stopping pollution, they've created schemes to allow corporations to continue to co-pollute and trade one community's health for another. This is called carbon trading, carbon schemes, right? This whole thing. And the idea of being able to exchange one community's health for another is a Western view that you are separate from nature. That I can rape the planet because I'm separate from it. I'm not part of this rock. I'm not a part of the trees. I'm not part of the water. I can rape and exploit and extract. But this idea of being able to say, no, we cannot exploit. No, we cannot rape. No, we cannot extract. No, we cannot pollute because this is our relative. In fact, this is us. In fact, this is my mother. And just as us coming together, we embody that here, right? But this idea of being able to create a connection, a reconnection is a unification process that so many prophecies from around the world have been teaching for centuries. And this reunification process is something that is happening right now. We are starting to stop seeing each other as separate people from individual countries. And you start to see it more and more in international spaces, that we are humanity. And that there is only us. And that our governments have failed us. And they continue to fail us on a daily basis. And so all we have is hope, right? They want us to be afraid. They want us to be fearful. They want us to do that. The only thing stronger than fear is hope. And we have hope. We have each other. And that's something that's more powerful than fascists taking over a colonial government, right? That we have each other. And the power of that is palpable. I can taste it in my mouth. And that's a beautiful thing. So being able to try to find different models for sustainability, what happens when you use indigenous wisdom, right? Like what are some examples of that being taking place? One of the big ones is the NASA project in Colombia. Has anybody ever heard of this? The NASA project is not the one that we know of that sends trash to outer space, but this is one that is basically around indigenous guards who are rematriating land and protecting it. They've rebuilt sustainable agricultural projects all throughout the Colombian Amazon basin, which is another one. The Maasai land management in Kenya is another one. Basically, the government's handed over the the management of wildlife back to the Maasai, who are traditional owners of that land, which brought back the ecosystems, brought back all of the different things, made the country of Kenya become a wildlife tourism. I mean, it's a whole different thing. The Canadian and the Great Bear Rainforest of the Helsik Nation in Canada, they're the ones who are renaturing lands back to regenerate the not boreal. It's a rainforest, not boreal, giant bear rainforest. Sorry, yes, really. Amazon Defense, once again, you know, these are indigenous people who are stewarding land stewardship stuff and really taking ownership. But these models themselves are based on connectivity and reconnection and unification of nature and celebration of life. The Black Mesa Coalition, I couldn't stop saying enough about that. So Hopi and Navajo Coalition ballot down in Arizona, who do basically fighting coal, right? And switching over Navajo Nation and Hopi to using solar panels, a more clean thing. Aboriginal fire management in Australia, you know, for years they were getting mad at the Aborigines for burning stuff, but this was the way for them to do it, right? This is traditional land management, and so by being able to hand that portion over by the Australian government to the Aboriginal people, they were able to basically restore a lot of the bioland. The Maori in New Zealand, they gave legal personhood for rivers and streams and mountains. This is a big thing. You know, back in 2016, the United Nations, the Indigenous Peoples Caucus had United Nations, basically Indigenous Peoples Bill of Rights, a Bill of Human Rights. And within that, there is a subsection of UNDRIP that is, it's called Free and Informed Prior Consent. It's FPIC for short. And with FPIC, it basically gives free and informed prior consent to Indigenous people when there's an infrastructure project that comes across sacred lands or something that they hold sacred. So like, it basically allows the tribes to have legal claim to say, this is a sacred site, this is my mountain, this is my sister, my grandfather, and you cannot put something through there, which means legal protection to those Indigenous people to protect that environment because of the claims that they have for ownership. So the United States adopted everything. This is under Obama, right? Adopted everything with an UNDRIP except for free and informed prior consent. And do you know why Obama denied free and informed prior consent? Because Standing Rock was happening at that moment in time. And FPIC would give legal precedent to the Standing Rock Sioux tribe to stop the impending pipeline coming to their land. Sorry, real quick. Turtle Island Network, USA, Salmon Restoration and Guardians Program in Canada, which is an Indigenous monitoring system. There's 9 different links there. I'm gonna send off, but you can follow up more about this, about like how those models differ from Western methodology, and more importantly, like these are models that are successful, that are based off of Indigenous wisdom. I wanted to just, I didn't put it up there as a solution, but I did put Standing Rock up as something that needs to be happening. You know, even though ultimately pipeline was put through the river, put underneath the river, the movement at Standing Rock was something that really helped to shift the world. I mean, it really helped to unite. I started off in, I was working as an organizer for Political Action Committee at the time. I was working on a campaign here in Washington State. And I had a full week because we were doing so well. I had a full week off, paid vacation. I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Maui, I'm going to go to all this summer skiing. And I was like, I'm going to North Dakota. And so doing, you know, I went over there and I'd never seen, I mean, I've seen natives before in the palace, but like I've never been like, I never walked around a group of people, nothing but Indigenous people, and everywhere I went, people smiling. I've never ever been in a space like that. Unless I was like at home, but even then, my families were kind of dicks too. But I've never been in a space like that. And the idea of the world coming together and really focusing on how Indigenous people can really come together, humanity, I should say, humanity under Indigenous wisdom can really come together and create something new. And I did want to point that I didn't put it off as a solution because, you know, I don't know, what is the solution, right? What are solutions? But I did want to highlight this and show you all some of it.
At that time, they were doing ceremony consistently. You know, it wasn't just lockdown situations or nonviolent direct action. It wasn't just protesting, it was ceremony, ceremony continuously happening from all these different tribes' backgrounds and the way that they took on a water blessing or a healing ceremony. And they would announce it and encourage all these indigenous people to take part and hold that space for protection of the water and protection of the land. And to unify with that consciousness of that is our intent, and our intent is this. And it was over Labor Day weekend, we were going down to hold a water blessing at the original construction site for the Dakota Access Pipeline. And there was a temporary restraining order in place due to the cultural significance of where the proposed pipeline was supposed to be built, meaning that there was graves that were in place of the pathway that was proposed. And the temporary restraining order was in place, preventing them from constructing due to the cultural significance. And we went down to hold the water blessing. It was a group of maybe 300 of us. And they said, hey, those guys are they're building, they're bulldozing right now, right in that same place. And so we left that water blessing and we marched in unity down to the fence. It's important to note that the cultural significance were graves. The American government killed over 100 women and children when they were resisting the occupation of America on their land. And the American government murdered these women and children mainly. And where these people fell, they buried them in those same spots. And those are the graves that we're talking about. Those are the graves that they were bulldozing right in front of our eyes. And it was just a slap on the face, not only for that tribe, but for Native Americans all throughout the entire world, that this is just an unacceptable thing to take place. We forgive you. It's time for you to go home. This is your children. This is the future. This is the planet. We forgive you. We forgive you. It's not too late to go home. This is your children. It is said that women are the leaders of resistance. And I find it true, all over humanity, women have led the call for peace and the call for resistance. And yes, there's no change of that on Standing Rock. I witnessed this woman in the middle of a chaos calmly walk past private security guards who had mace and handcuffs and attack dogs and pepper spray. And she walked right past them out of the chaos and calmly sat down in the path of a bulldozer on a big pile of dirt. And it was the most quiet power, the most reserved thing that I've ever witnessed in real life.
Oh, Oh,
Pepper sprayed before. I've also been maced. You know, I've been tear gassed. I even been tased. But that day was the first day that anybody ever let the dog loose on me. And so I decided to do something. Some online fundraising, bought supplies, and came back 1 week later to help solidify the front line. It was unacceptable for this to be taking place in the 21st century on American soil to American citizens. Um, we are humanity, and we need to stand up for ourselves because this is our only planet. That second trip was mainly just to deliver supplies. During the 3 days spent during the second time, I got a letter from the tribe asking the city of Spokane to officially endorse the movement that are protecting the water. Spokane City Council passed a resolution supporting them officially 2 weeks later. And we're at the front line. It's very important for us to come together and hold each other strong inside like this. Friends with us. Pray for a good outcome.
A little intense. Wanted to show that because there's a moment in there, and I showed it to the full thing where I had to take the cell phone and put it in my pocket because there was nowhere to hold it any longer. And everybody's chaos, we got dogs, all that stuff. And then there was a cohesion that happened. And I don't know if you all watched it. I had the phone in my pocket, everybody's screaming. Then there was a cohesion that happened. Everybody just understood that water is life. And you could hear it with water, red, life, water, red. That you could feel it. You could feel how long that was. That was under Obama. All that happened under Obama. Almost progressive. Everybody looks up to this dude now, right? Obama. Ooh, Obama. That's what Obama is. So when we look at this new takeover, is remember that we've been through this before. In fact, the day after Trump got elected and it was solidified, I went down and signed on to be a community support organizer. And I've been doing community support organizing for the last 8 years. And it's important to really understand that like we have to be out in the streets. We have to fight for what's right. We have to live up to our moral obligation. We have to live up to our spiritual obligation. But we also have to find ways that we can funnel that passion and that anger into something that is creating new. It's so easy for us to be anti this, anti-fascist. It's so easy to be anti-establishment, anti-bullshit, right? It's so really easy for us to be this. It's really easy for us to be angry and reactive to the bullshit that we have to endure. What is important for us is to take that same passion and same anger and same energy that we have and build it towards something that will make these old systems obsolete. And it's something that is really, really important. And I think it's especially as we get bombarded by negativity on a consistent basis as a fear tactic by fascists who are trying to take control, that we have each other. And logic will prevail. And humanity is evolving. And it's really important, I think, for us to recognize that these stranglehold on society are the death battles of the oppressive system that are becoming obsolete by outdated paradigms that no longer feed humanity. And really feel that. And despite the science and everybody telling us that we are fucked, old people telling us that there's no chance, there's no hope, they tried. I'm here to tell you that you can die and come back. You can survive. You can regrow. You can become. And despite all the bullshit you have to go through, but this is a wonderful time to be alive. This is the growing pains. I don't know if y'all remember teenage years, but that shit was fucked up, right? Remember teenage years? Oh, God. Y'all don't want to see me when I was a teenager. God, I still have pimples too. Yeah. So what I wanted to do is really focus on the shortcomings of traditional policy, climate policy. The traditional models that we have are Western-based, where we view nature as separate and everything is separate from us. We can extract and exploit. But this idea of coming together to a reunification is inevitable. I mean, this is something that is going to happen. I mean, they're going to try to deny climate until it's too fucking late, right? That's a thing. But what we have to do is it's really find ways that we can speak truth to power. And by being in community and being in spaces where we can articulate what the future looks like, it's really easy for me to tell you about a healthy, just, livable future. But I want to tell you that you need to find people of like-minded who are in your space and articulate what that future looks like. Describe to your friends, describe to your family, what does the future look like if it's healthy and if it's just, and if it's livable? Define it, to really articulate what that future looks like, what you are working towards, what we are building to. And as we look at oppositions and obstacles and the most ridiculous shit that we've ever heard, it's important to find the positivity and understand that this is a chance to build, this is a chance to grow, this is a chance for us to evolve. And just recently the United States pulled themselves out of the UNFCCC. And what a slap in the face to the youth. What a slap in the face to the future of humanity. But as we look at the traditional short fallings of climate policy, one of the beautiful things about the U.S. not being in the room is that the asshole is out of the room, right? And I say that not as just a Native American, but as an American citizen, that the American government goes into international spaces and acts as obstructionists. They act as bullies. They will go in and threaten, right? And this is under a democratic. The U.S. government is empire. Let's not forget that. The U.S. government is out here doing this thing. And with the U.S. government not being in, there's no one to hide behind. So often, smaller countries will come together and work for years to create this beautiful climate policy that, if enacted on a global level, would have massive implications across the whole of humanity. And the U.S. comes in and says, nah, I'm good. And then China says, I'm good too. Russia, yet, right? And that's a thing. That's a thing that takes place. And so with the U.S. being out of the room, somebody bullying and threatening and all of this stuff, hopefully the rest of the world will be able to fill in. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about working in this space, specifically from where I'm at, as an American citizen who's focusing on international climate policy, and then American government pulls us out of international climate policy, right? The world is not U.S. centered. And that's something that we have to get over. And when the US is out of the space, the rest of the world will hopefully be able to fill in the gaps. And by the time we elect a sane person back into the office, then we will have legally binding things. The US will have no reasonable way to say no to. We will be legally obligated to do these things. So in the moments that we have separated from the rest of the world, let's rebuild and focus on what is possible and how we can really define the future that is healthy and just and livable. I did want to just talk a little bit about the shortcomings, focusing specifically on domestic policies. There's a lot of people who are focusing on international spaces, celebrating domestic policy wins. There's a lot of people who are celebrating domestic policy wins as being some sort of beacon of hope for the rest of the world. The idea of making small increment steps domestically has passed us, and it is a shortfalling of government. For them to continuously try to make this a thing is, I just don't have words for it. But the idea of capitalism continuing to pollute us the way it is made it's not going to stop, right? Like the way that the traditional climate policy is passing the buck. Let's trade this up. Let's keep polluting. We're still making money. How do we still make it seem? And this opens up the door for greenwashing. All those, for those of you who don't know, greenwashing is a term used to basically put up a front, a facade, creating the illusion that you're a green person or green body, and instead you're still continuing to pollute. This is what the governments have been doing this whole time. COP27, Joe Biden came to Egypt. And this is before I was doing the work with the Wisdom Keepers delegation. I'm still a solo nonprofit group. And one of the beautiful things about being a solo nonprofit group is you don't have to go to a board and ask for permission. Right? I hear a snicker from the corner, but you don't have to ask the board for shit, right? Like, I don't have nothing. I'll tell them what I do. There's no point in me telling anybody anything. And there's no way that I could have gone to a board and say, the president is up there speaking a bunch of bullshit. I'm about to interrupt him and hold up a banner and shut this down, right? We're going to do that. We're going to prove that. I did it anyway. And guess what? So what? Like, we have to speak truth to power. Biden was supposed to be the hero, but didn't do anything. He had 4 years to make an impact and did nothing. He opened up the door for a fascist to come into power and destroy all that we hold as moral goodness in our lives. But I wanted to not be negative. It's so easy for us to be negative. Like, I know for me personally, it's really hard, it's a difficult process, but it's a learning experience. And we have to find ways that we can refocus our thoughts, refocus our fear into energy that creates some build. And I encourage you to really figure out what that looks like. Like, don't listen to me, even don't even listen to what I say. I don't know. What the hell do I know? You know, I just run the microphone, it doesn't even work. But the idea is for us to be able to really define what it is that we're working towards. And it's so often that we don't know what it is that we're working towards. One of the things that really stuck out to me was over here. Forgive me. So in the process of doing it, when I was meditating, right, I had this vision of, I kept seeing this symbol. I didn't know what the hell the symbol was. I ended up taking the symbol and seeing it. At first I thought it was these eight places were the places I had to go as the earth, right? Remember, as the earth, you had these different places I had to go and do all these things. And I kept seeing this symbol, and the symbol was like a star quilt pattern. It's a symbol that's reminiscent on a bunch of traditions around the world. But the idea, when I started seeing the symbol, I tried to decipher it. I didn't know what it was. After deep meditation, I started to see that these dots connected a grid, and within that grid became a pattern. And that pattern was representative of a 3D model. And that 3D model was a conceptual idea of a fourth dimensional object. And in my tradition, we speak of a time where we have evolution of consciousness, where we go from the first world, the second world, the third world, to the fourth world, and so on until we are free from the cycles of incarnation. I'm going to play it one more time. What happened on a loop? That thing? But this idea of creating these spots and these spaces is was like, okay, we have to birth something new. I kept seeing this symbol over and over and over again. I didn't know what it was. And then I realized it was 3D representation of a fourth dimensional object. All right, mind blowing. What the fuck am I thinking? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm in my underwear on the floor. But what I wanted to do is understand that we are. Great. One of the things that really stuck out to me is like how do we come? What's next, right? We always have to grow. I can get a bunch of people that can come to the United Nations and we can speak truth to power. I can get press conferences. We can do all this stuff. We can do all these things. And what does it accomplish? How do we quantify our impact? Right. I have a list of media stuff. We had Time Magazine, New York Times, LA Times, Guardian, right? All last year. Our numbers are crazy. Our Instagram posts are wild, but it's not really an impact. And one of the things that really is running as a theme within our delegation is that we have spent so much time and energy trying to convince governments to listen to us that what we need to do is just do it ourselves and show people how to incorporate, adapt, and mitigate to a warmed world. And so I don't have it up there now, but I'm gonna use my jacket here that somebody made for me. I did not make this myself. These 8 spots, these 8 places are going to be climate hubs that incorporate and show and demonstrate traditional ecological knowledge and ancient wisdom for specific bioregions. And so what we are in the process of doing is creating 8 different climate hubs that are regenerative farms that showcase and highlight and demonstrate traditional ecological knowledge for specific bioregions, but also become cultural sharing centers for this local network that's going to be incorporated. So as we continue to do the climate policy work, we're going to be building our first U.S.-based one here in the Pacific Northwest, specifically around the Spokane area. We're going to be building like 200, looking for like 200, 300 acres of land to create regenerative farms that demonstrate ancient wisdom and traditional ecological knowledge, specifically when it comes to adaptation and mitigation strategies for specific bioregions. The concept is for us to create 8 different hubs around the planet to create the network to create a fourth world that we so desperately need. And this idea is, somebody came to me, they said, stop wasting your breath. You're asking for thousands of dollars. You're asking for this. There's billionaires out here buying governments, and you're asking for thousands of dollars. Like you need to be asking for millions of dollars. And it came to they said, well, what would you do with $100 million? This is what we're going to do. So we have a $300,000 commitment for the U.S. site right now, which is really, really big. We have 3 farms already in South Africa that are working in alignment. We'll start to do seed exchanges and networking in April, which is really, really huge. But this is a great way for us to say, like, the governments have failed us. Like, governments have failed us, and they continue to fail us time and time again. Whether it's a left or right, it doesn't matter, right? Governments fail us. And so what we need to do is find the power within ourselves. And how do we share them? In my tradition, we speak of it. When we first came to this place, we first came to this planet, there was no written language, right? We didn't have a typewriter, we didn't have nothing. So the Masao, the guardian of the earth, and the guardian of the underworld, explained to the parachief what was taking place. What was going to happen on this life, in this plane of existence. And he wrote it all down onto petroglyphs, onto the sandstone rock. And it's in petroglyphs. And it's called the time rock. And in that time rock shows the time of life. It shows the World War I, World War II, shows the atomic bomb. And it goes into this path up. And then this path drops drastically. And it ends. And this is the path of ease. This is the path of technology. It's the path of colonization. But there's a separate path, one that just maintains the same path, and it goes on forever. This is the path of traditional ecological knowledge, being able to share with the world how to live off of the land, how to live in a world that is inundated by extreme weather patterns, and how do we tap into the collective consciousness of humanity, specifically for those who have been holding on to ancient wisdom for a millennia. My friend, who's not in any show any videos, my friend who lives in the Colombian jungle, he's a Kogi. Kogis are a tribe that live in the Amazon. Sorry. Cottonmouth with that. But they have their time cycles are running 500 years. So every 500 years is a different time cycle, right? It's a whole nother time cycle. So when the Spanish came 500 years ago, they knew that this was happening because it was the end of their time cycle. And what they did is they took all of their people and they went up into the mountains and they hid for 500 years. And they and they had all of their ancient wisdom keepers and all this stuff, and they took their medicine people and their knowledge holders and put them down into caves. And some of the people, like they pick young children from the tribe and they bring them down into the caves to study with the ancient wisdom keepers until like 35, and they come out and they're like, but anyways, the whole thing, right? Pretty cool group of people. But that knowledge that they have hidden away for the past 500 years has come to its turn, and that knowledge is coming out of the mountains. That these tribes are coming out to share ancient wisdom, to share teachings, to share reunification that so many of us have been talking about for so long. So many of us have been conceptualizing this and talking about it and making little hand holdings around it. But this is us doing it in real time. And I want you to know that this all started off with just me as one solo person taking supplies to standing. All because I got beat up by some dogs. But the idea is for us to really define and create the world that we want. There's always going to be evil in the world. There's always going to be opposition. There's always going to be some asshole telling you what you can do and what you can't do. It's always going to be that way. This is just an eternal struggle that we all have to deal with. But coming together and really focusing on what the future looks like for you personally and defining that with your loved ones is really, really helping us to co-create that future that we all want together, because everybody's dream will fit together eventually. I wanted to call out, I wanted to do a split. I wanted to do a group exercise. I don't know what time we have now. We haven't got time. Sweet. Well, let's split the room down the middle. So just half here, half here. And what I want to do is have you guys just like kind of make a loose circle, and we're just going to talk a little bit about some local stuff here, and we're going to do some fun little workshops. So I can get you both sides to sort of form a little group. You don't have to go in a circle, but just someplace where you are within eyesight and can hear each other, see each other.
Yeah, we live in chairs. Y'all want to move chairs? Yes. You can.
Great. Moving back.
Love moving around, yeah.
Do you want a comfy chair? That's what I was wondering. You want a soft chair?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit down.
Cool. So now that we've found some little gangs, you guys are Bloods and Crips. I was gonna say left and right, but we're not. It's too soon. So what I wanted to do is basically just talk a little bit about real world scenarios, right? Something local, something that people can do, something that's an elephant in the room that people just ignore. And what I want you to do is try to think of different ways that you could find an alternative solution to what's being done now. So locally in Spokane is that we don't use a whole lot of landfills, but we have a waste to energy plant. This is what they call it. Basically, it's a trash incinerator. The trash incinerator is just down the road here. It's towards air. I don't know where the hell it's at. You can smell it. Anyways, it burns trash, right? And so with this trash, it's a trash incinerator. And so what the city of Spokane has done is that they've tried to reclassify that as a recycling center and change it to a waste to energy plant, right? That they're burning trash to create energy. Well, the fact is that we live in Spokane and it rains all the time and it snows all the time and trash is wet. So in order to burn trash, guess what they have to do? That's right. They have to burn a bunch of propane and gas and burn it. That's how they burn the gas, is by burning fossil fuels. So this waste to energy is actually just a bunch of fossil fuels burning our trash in an inundated air system that we all breathe. Isn't that lovely? Guess what? Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. I've tried to bring it up multiple times. They say, do you have another solution? Do you have another alternative? What's good? What's good? I want you all to figure that out. What's a good alternative to waste to energy plant, a trash incinerator, or a street, for our friends just down the street. And you guys have got 10 minutes, and then we're just gonna do a real quick report back about what you all think, okay? All right, go.
I saw this one first. Yeah. Is that fuel?
Yes. Well, I mean, your numbers also.
Yeah, so bricks, you know, so and then they use lead canal, last time model, and so yeah, and then go to neighborhood and build like so for them.
I've only got side shots in here, but I would like to get a straight shot.
You look.
Look. All right, thank you.
Whenever I see pictures of myself, I feel like a muppet.
You know what's worse is my wife is like, don't take pictures of me, don't post pictures of me or whatever. I'm like, go ahead and take pictures.
Not but then volunteers or whatever, once they hire people. Where's the stuff? Yeah, whatever happens to yeah, so it's apparently a lot of that stuff can not recycling is actually. Yeah. Yes.
So recycling in Spokane is definitely.
It is.
So sorry, I have to run. Thank you so much. I'll be here for the.
Oh, did you grab a plate?
Oh, I was here last
Oh,
week,
okay.
so I have all. Thank you so much. I'll be here the next two. Thank you.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually reuse as much. So all of this ends up in the jam jars, incinerator, before. Yeah, so, you know, even if we about the policy that are which is amazing, and I love it because I love what you're talking about. It's not necessarily valuable because the systems out there for recycling are broken. So in order to fix the recycling, they have to look at why they're failing. And that's like the little triangles on the bottom, those are different levels of recycling. And so when everything's thrown together, Spokane will only accept certain types. And so